and welcome to another episode of Parallel Barking.
Woof, woof. Woof, woof.
I'm
Woof, woof.
Ariana Becker.
And I'm her dad, her
Yeah,
nemesis, the person who just won't stop talking.
yeah, all of that. Today we will be talking about something
Dad
that's
jokes. Dad jokes.
all of that as well.
Dad
Something that something that's been going on for a while. Well, actually,
Not dad jokes.
Until no, that's been going on for a while. Something that's been going on since at least December 2021. Well, and apparently, according to Daddy, since forever.
No, don't give it away. Don't give it away.
Since
do your thing. Do your thing.
He knows all.
No, I wish.
But
the only thing I know is that I don't know nothing.
I was super interested in it, and I thought it was relevant just because it's happening now. But
Dad joke.
Apparently,
there's a dad joke.
There is a battle going on between anime YouTube channels and YouTubers and the Japanese anime owners. And it's getting pretty heated.
You mean the owners of the images that the people are using to do their own art?
Correct.
On YouTube? Okay.
So
So they're not like out of the blue saying something weird. It's the YouTube people are using, or they're starting off by using someone else's product precisely because it's well known, and then working their own magic on it.
Right, like they're using Pokemon from Shogakukan Shueisha Productions, which is Showpro, and they're making it into like a parody. So like there was a YouTube channel named YouTuber Suede who had his own channel back in 2021 he got slapped with like 150 copyright strikes.
Was he making money from this YouTube channel?
Oh no, it wasn't Suede. It was Mark Fitzpatrick, a popular anime reviewer.
Was he making money? Was he making money from this?
I'm not sure, but
it
doesn't matter.
We don't have to use names. We can just keep it hypothetical.
Okay, but I mean, his name's out there anyway. So he got slapped with a bunch of copyrights from Toei.
Tell our hearers what a slap is.
It's a suit. It's a lawsuit, basically. So 150 copyright suits all at once this person got, which would normally shut down a channel, but instead YouTube stepped in and enforced its own policy that gives its content creators more room.
Just pause for a second, just so that people are clear. A slap suit is a defensive technique by someone who wants to shut someone else down. It's an acronym for strategic lawsuit against public participation. That's SLAP. The other name for it is an intimidation lawsuit. So that if you rather, in the context of the dispute, what you do is you kind of make it not about the substantive issues, but about who has more money to utilize the court system over a longer and more effective period, so that generally well-heeled litigants might be tempted to use this in order to make it economically impossible for someone else to defend. And so it can be used either defensively when the well-heeled party is sued, and then this is their counterstrike, or they use it offensively when they mean they're not sure how strong their suit is, especially in these kind of contexts where we're dealing with hopefully the development of international standards for fair use. And they use it offensively by saying, well, okay, one lawsuit is expensive, 150 lawsuits will bankrupt you, and what we'll do is to make it go away, we'll get what we want, which is to have you bend the knee to us by paying us a fee for the use of our product, even though as a matter of either international law or common usage or the law of the jurisdiction in which it's done, they may not need to do that. And by doing that, they then extend their rights. So that's what's going on here, I think.
Yeah, I agree. What I guess, so for this first described slap suit,
or how shall let's call it an intimidating, over the top, either
I like
action
slap
plan or
suit.
response. All right, well, you can slap.
I'm
cheeks are
slap
burning.
happy.
My cheeks are burning.
Good. So, I
I
mean,
will see you 150 times.
okay, so the YouTube policy that they enacted allowed, you know, the owners of the content creators to remove video from YouTube only in places like Japan, where the copyright holder resides.
Right, but why only Japan? I mean, it's important to note.
It's because that's where the copyright holder resides.
No, it's worse than that. Here's the problem. You've got 200 and something states, and you've got probably slightly less than 200 and something variations on interpretation of what fair use means. The Japanese, I believe, are notorious, and there are a number of other powerful countries too, are notorious for reading the fair use exception in copyright very, very, very narrowly.
Mm-hmm.
And so what is going on then is, and you know, and the Japanese, of course, can do whatever the Japanese want to do in their own sovereign capacity, God bless them.
Right.
The question then arises, if something is home-based in Japan, but it's being used in New Zealand or Australia or the United States or Bolivia, to what extent should Japan, merely because it's got some serendipitous territorial connection with the creation of content that's now everywhere else, to what extent can it extend extraterritorially, that is outside of its borders, its own standards, when the standards of the country in which this stuff is done, Bolivia, Cameroons, Belarus, whatever, may be much, much more accommodating of people who want to take content and then make their own art, you know, the fair use. And so what was really going on are two things. One is this fight over strategic use of national standards in international disputes. And then the second thing, right, and that's standard issue. So everyone is fighting over what rule wins and under what circumstances. So that's problem number one. And then and that's a legal problem and a problem of policy, and we can duke it out, and hopefully you'll have a view on this. We can talk about it. The second and the more troubling one is, well, to what extent can you comply strictly with the rules of courts, but at the same time use your power to engage in tactics that ultimately undermine what might otherwise be viewed as a fair resolution of the substance, right? That's an ethical issue and a moral issue with respect to the integrity of the process of resolving the dispute, as opposed to where we think the line should be drawn on fair use. So there's two things going on here, and I think it's important to separate them out.
Yeah, I mean, and then also, I mean, we're also dealing with companies that are based in, you know, obviously two different sovereignties, and we're talking about international law, which is
we're talking about the application of law, whatever its source, within particular places, right? The Japanese might take the position that as long as we can claim that it was birthed in Japan somehow because the company was there, and even that's a stretch sometimes when you've got a Japanese company that is actually producing some of this art in California or outsourcing it to Taiwan or to Bangkok or whatever. But that somehow that they can claim it as their own and then decide that they can plant their flag on the idea, and that flag follows this idea wherever it goes. just like a Mercedes would always be a German car wherever it's made, and therefore the rules of Germany ought to be able to apply to the car and liability for accidents, even if the accident occurs in Oklahoma. There's a famous case about this.
Oh, really?
And yeah, and most of the time, and God bless them, you do what you can in order to take advantage. But in most jurisdictions, the idea is, hey, look, we love you, Japan, and may you live another 10,000 years in a stable and happy time with yourself. But you're over there, and we think that maybe whatever is cool for you there, once your border is porous enough to let the stuff squeeze out, you yourself allowed your own people, assuming that that we buy your claim that it's yours when you're dealing with abstract ideas, or it's the way it's actually created. Once it crosses that border, perhaps now the country into which it is projected ought to be the one whose rules, sensitivities, and preferences ought to apply. And frankly, if you don't like this, then what we need is a uniform rule. The problem is now we get 200 countries come together to come up with a uniform rule.
Nobody wants to give up their sovereignty.
Well, no one wants to give up their view of what's right.
Exactly.
So the Japanese and the Cameroonians will come together, and the Japanese will say, well, we want this really strict thing. The Cameroonians say, oh, we've got a really cool, we are the funniest people on earth, and we are known. Cameroon has cultivated the industry of parody. Here's a ridiculous example, but so we spend a lot of money. We have universities of parody, and no, we think that your idea, Japan, is completely worthless. And as far as we're concerned, as long as it's clear that they're not profiting from your work, but they're just using your work to make some other new work, we'll take that as fair use. And there you go. And so now what do you do?
This kind of
right. So I got a question. So just in terms of the substance, who do you think is right? Are the Japanese right that in fact, if you use anyone else's idea in whatever form, like you decide to start off something with using a Pokemon figure, do you think that the person who uses it for whatever, even if they're making new art, that they owe the company from which they took at least the starting point of their idea, they owe them something? And that the Pokemon people ought to be able to get a little money to acknowledge both that the genesis of the idea, and that it costs them some money and the care and feeding of this image. So what do you think? Yes or no?
No. And I'm going to tell you the reason. Because, and I'm not just saying that out of my butt, y'all. I see myself as a visual artiste, and I've always had the feeling that after I make a piece of art, it's no longer mine. It's out in the ether. It's there. So it's not maybe to that extent, but you've made the work. It's there once. And
now someone else can copy it and sell it, even though they've done nothing to it.
I think this is really interesting, because while we were talking, I was like, what would really solve all this is if all of these things were turned into NFTs, and then every time that these were played, these companies would get a little something.
Okay, so you're of two minds. The part of the problem is, I think, and we all rightly fear exploitation, that if you give the companies too much power over this stuff, then what you've done is you've essentially killed creative ideas and creative interchange, because what is art if not a constant dialogue among artists, learning and getting off of each other?
I don't think direct copy, direct copy is, but I completely approve of sampling. I absolutely approve of.
Yeah, I take the Mona Lisa and I put her in a biker outfit.
Absolutely love it. Yes, make money
But then
off that,
Leonardo's
don't
there.
care. Even if I didn't make money off of the first one, don't care.
Right, because, right. On the other hand, you're also right to the extent that you are starting from someone else's idea. So here's the example. So when you do that, are you treating that idea the way you would treat a canvas on which you're going to do your own art, but you had to go to the store and buy the canvas? So you really had to pay something for the foundation, or are you free, having seen it, to not pay anything, right? And then becomes more difficult. But, like you said, to the extent that you can actually come up with a system of at least nominal acknowledgement, financial acknowledgement. Oh yeah, okay, so my big bang is, but then it gets very complicated, right? So if you're going to use the Mona Lisa, Leonardo's dead. I really don't feel like paying the Louvre, who's doing nothing but keeping hordes of tourists away from taking pictures that turn out terrible because they're too cheap to buy the postcard.
Yeah.
And it gets, but there's a problem. And probably a lot of venues to the solution, and yours is as good and probably better than others. So because you really don't want to stifle creativity, and you understand that creativity requires everyone to kind of engage,
feed off each other. That's what it needs. You need to feel free to be able to do it, but then you also need to feel like your ideas are protected as well. Like you don't want to
are worth something, right?
Are worth something, yeah.
Right, that you get some kind of acknowledgement. And then the question then is pricing.
Mm-hmm.
Right, and it's got to be fair. But of course, you're leaving it to the Japanese, and in a sense, this is a funny thing, because if you look at the case that was that you mentioned, the New Zealand case, that's precisely what in a very inefficient and kind of unethical, or an ethically questionable way, the Japanese companies are winding up exactly in that position, except they want to set the price, right? And so all of this boils down to, okay, we will go away if you pay us, I don't know, $80 or $1 million or whatever it is that they set. So we're getting to the same place, but then the question is, why should they set the price? If you're going to do this, maybe the market should set the price. And that's why your idea is just so brilliant.
That's what I was going to say. Like, well, for NFTs, the market's already setting the price for those. So
Girl, we got to set up an NFT company.
I'm already doing it. I'm already doing it. It's already started. It's been started.
These Japanese companies and say you will solve their problems so that they don't have to blow all this money on fancy lawyers. They can blow this money on you.
Everybody who is listening to this, do not steal this idea. It's copywritten, okay? We will slap sue you.
Unless you pay us money. You're going to charge me too, because
we have NFT'd this episode, okay?
Right, so pay us money. But and ultimately that's really the funniest part of all of this, is that it all comes down to money. So how do you value things? Well, our equivalent is always something, and it sounds terrible, but on the other hand, why money? Because money is the exchange that you use to be able to continue to eat, live, and breathe so that you can continue to produce.
Yeah.
So it's not morally horrible to think about it in those terms if one understands what the medium is. But we've got a tiny bit of time. I want to hit the moral issue. What do you think about this? Everyone loves to hate on lawyers, but this is a great case for doing precisely that, for hating on lawyers. What do you think about
the
this?
Lawyer is speaking, y'all?
Yeah, well, I'm the first one to say that sometimes, you can't be the enabler of bad conduct, even though, and in fact, in my corporations class a couple of days ago, we were talking about the problem of the extent to which the state can tolerate strict compliance with the law that ultimately undermines the integrity of the of the law system. And, you know, you're getting close, I think, in this context. I would certainly want to have a heart-to-heart with my client about just exactly what they're doing and their moral position.
What the goal of this really is.
Right. And, you know, the dispute resolution is meant to focus on dispute. And what you're doing now is what people do all the time, and that is to kind of flank attack by saying, well, you know, if there's even a little risk that the thing will go the other way, then how can we, to use the American expression in markets, how can we unlevel the playing field? Well, you know, and at that point, you're no longer dealing with disputes, you're dealing with power.
Yeah.
And the minute you start dealing with power, you got to ask yourself, you know, is it ethical? And if it is ethical, do you really want to make the state complicit? And, you know, and as a state, you know, as a state, do I really want to be a complicit party, the party that makes this possible by turning a blind eye and allowing because it's my power, my system, my integrity, my ability to enforce that makes all of this possible. You know, people do what people do, and you can't really fault them. And if the rules say you can, but again, and this is something, we'll have another conversation about this. This is one of those instances, again, where the adults have all left the room. At some point, litigants be litigants, and that's cool, but someone got to be the adult. And simply, I set the system up to resolve disputes. I didn't set the system up so that you can show me your very expensive plumage and then smother someone else, and then we never get to the dispute.
Right.
So, but
we can watch dramas for that.
Unless only if we pay.
Yes. Well, hey, I mean, you know, yeah, I guess HBO Max is.
Yeah. So what do you think of the slap suits then in that context?
Well, I've never really been a fan of slap suits. I mean, yeah. When I become rich and famous one day and I can lord it over people.
Yeah, and it gets back to the ancient problem, is what's the purpose of dispute resolution? Is the dispute resolution solely about the problem, or more sociologically, is it a way of mediating through the problem the relations between people of unequal power?
It's so about rubbing someone's face in the poo.
Right, and showing that I am the leader of a larger kingdom and yes. You are nothing. And while the rules may theoretically apply to you, they don't. But of course, at some point in that system, someone is going to, as we used to say in Cuba, put on a green uniform, grow a beard, go into the mountains, and start thinking about overthrowing the regime. So everything, even that comes at a price eventually over the long term. We may not live to see it, but you make enough people angry enough and you abuse your social power, even especially by having rules that you can never actually invoke because you're going to use process to make that impossible. At some point, you got a pressure cooker and that thing is going to explode.
Yeah.
One way or another. And one way it'll explode will be to find a bunch of haven countries that will say, you know, too bad for you, and pay us, says the country, if you want us to allow you to go ahead and make your claims about
to sue somebody. Yes, right. yes. Oh, that's a good one. I like that.
Yeah, toll keepers, and we have millennia of, how shall we say, suppressed industries that work in that direction.
Man, now I keep on thinking of the game Civilization and how many different ways this could go.
A lot of ways. So, you know, God bless them. Let's see what happens. But the issue is nowhere near resolution. And no matter how strong in this case, the Japanese companies, it would be, you know, it'd be the Americans with pharma and
of course.
Yeah, you know, so there's instances of this and everything, but you know, there's, in the face of demand, no matter how much power you have, someone is always going to find a way of resisting and then of undermining. And at some point, you will impose yourself to the point where you become your own parody.
Yes. I'm
And then
always
people think,
a fan of finding ways to circumvent money.
yeah, but you know the first rule of Circumvention Club is you can't talk about
Circumvention club. Yeah, that's always the first rule. All right, well, that's it for me.
And that's it for me. Fabulous topic.
Yes, it was good. Good times.
All right, but go ahead and let's start doing this. We'll go on the road.
We'll start selling NFTs. Nobody
Yes.
else do it.
Or at craft fairs or however it is one starts.
Oh yeah, we'll sell NFTs at
Cyber craft fairs.
That's how it works, Dad.
Dad
All right.
joke. Dad joke.
All right. See y'all next time.
Woof woof.
Bye.